It's Spence, the evil genius, from Witch Laboratory with your lab secrets tip of the day. Well, today I want to pull out a great CSS styling trick for you that'll allow you to do a lot of cool stuff on your Lab Secret Solution site. It's a little bit more advanced, but it's so simple that you can probably start out trying it even if you're a newbie. Now, what it does is it creates a shadow box effect. Now, one of the things that the mad scientist and I always debate here at the lab is if you use the shadow effect without discretion, you could run into a very 1999 looking site. So for example, we try not to use shadow effect on text, but when you do it with a specific graphical element like a box, you can actually get a nice, very Web 3.0 effect. In many cases, makes it look like you've got a piece of paper or a sticky note or something floating above the screen. And it's a great way to call attention to just one or two items of your page. Just remember, use it with discretion. Anything in moderation is good. Anything in excess can always usually end up to be a little bit not good. Maybe bad even. Okay, so how do we make it happen? It's really simple. It can be used in any of the blog posts or pages in your Lab Secret Solution. Here I've set up a sample page. I called it Sample Shadow Box. And there's really two elements to it. It's basically the divide ID I've called Shadow Box. You could call it anything you want, whatever works with your memory system, of course. And then I've closed it with the divide tag ending there. And inside I put some sample text. You could put in an image or you could put in other content as well. Whatever's inside the box will be affected by the CSS I'm about to show you. And then here it is. So I can use the editor that's built into the Lab Secret Solution. And remember, the way I get to that would be to go under Appearance, Editor, and for this particular themes, the headlines theme, it's called custom.css. But since it's easier for you to see it here, I'm going to use a third-party editor called CyberDuck. And you can see how I've actually put this style in. Now, again, using Firebug, I identified that this divide was called Shadowbox. And you can see it on the left here. And it's got the hashtag shadow-box. Now, if I want to and I'm more comfortable, I can add the div at the beginning. Either way, the most important thing I need is to have the hashtag and then the proper name. That way the CSS will be affecting this particular element of my page design. Now, the number one thing that affects this is the Mozilla-box.shadow or the WebKit.box-shadow. I should say -box-shadow. Remember, this is only going to work on modern CS3 browsers. So if you got IE 6.0 with dust on it from 1999, I'm sorry, it's just not going to work. It'll deprecate back to a flat file box. But then again, if your users are still using IE 6, you've got bigger problems to worry about since this is already 2010. We encourage you to get all your users onto a modern browser, whether it be Chrome, Safari, or Firefox. Any of those will work with this. Now, what are the elements that we're going to affect? Well, let's look at it in Firebug. First of all, the number one element is your X, Y, and your, I'm going to call it Z, but actually it's the blur effect, as well as the color of the shadow. So let me show you real quick. If I affect the first number, this is the offset in the X-axis, which is side to side, and a higher number means more offset, lower number is less. A number of 5 works here. Same with the y-axis. The higher number drops it lower. By the way, if I go to 0, it's in the middle, but if I go above a negative number, I can also float up. And that's a great way to do it if you want the light to look like it's coming from the lower left. I'm going to leave it at 5, so it looks like it's coming from the upper left. And lastly, the blur. The higher the number, the more blur there is. And the lower the number, the less blur there is. And again, depending on your preference and what you're going for, something around a 5 works pretty well. Last but not least, the color of the shadow. That's the base color. And again, doesn't have any changes to the opacity, but basically the more blur you put in, the more transparent it becomes. Watch what happens if I do something a little crazy. I'll go red. Wow, check that out. And I'm going to add some more blur into it. So I got a little bit of a neon light effect. Okay, let me go through real quick the other ones. Background color you can affect here, the color of the text, the font size of the text, the height of the box. I can force the box to be a certain height, or I can leave it on auto. Got the margin above the box, so if I increase this number here, it'll put more space in. I can also increase the padding around the text. I've got it at 30 pixels now, so if I make it less, you can see the padding is lower. I got the alignment to the center, but I can also go justified, left, right, whatever you want. And lastly, the width of the box I can affect here. And that's the end of this tutorial.